So it is going to be the first Saturday in October for college football. And to me, it's the first big football week. Now, I know last week it felt pretty normal last week, but there weren't any big games. This week we do have a big game. That's Auburn-Georgia, and we have another ranked matchup in Alabama and A&M. But this is the first week. We've already had a week to play, and this second week, you kind of get over the novelty of the first week, and this is the first week that really feels real. So we have plenty of games to preview, but I want to go ahead and start with the games on Friday. We have Campbell and Wake Forest. Both those teams are winless, and we have Louisiana Tech and BYU. This is on Friday. Now, Campbell-Wake Forest is not going to be very interesting, but it is something to turn on at 6 o'clock tomorrow. Wake Forest should blow them out. That's all I got to say about that. And next we have Louisiana Tech and number 22 BYU. BYU is favored by 24 points. And BYU is one of those teams that I think is grossly overrated. They beat a Navy team. They did beat the crap out of Navy, but Navy hadn't even practiced tackling yet. So it's not that impressive to beat Navy like that. And then they went and beat Troy, and Troy is just Troy. And I'm not saying BYU is bad. I think it's probably a decent BYU team, but I think they're grossly overrated. I don't think they should be favored by 24 over Louisiana Tech. So I would take Louisiana Tech against the spread plus 24 there. BYU, I hope they prove me wrong. It's unfortunate for BYU that they do have a team that is better than it's been in the past. I will admit that. But it's unfortunate for BYU that they had the best strength of schedule in a long time this season, and it all got canceled and stripped away, and now they have one of their worst strength of schedules they've ever had. So it's unfortunate for BYU. I do think they're a little overrated, but maybe they can prove me wrong by blowing out Louisiana Tech. Now, moving on to Saturday, we have South Carolina and Florida at 11 a.m. And Florida is favored by 17.5. Florida gave up a whole of a lot of points against Ole Miss. Granted, it was a season opener, and there's going to be some sloppiness, but I didn't like that Florida gave up that many points to Ole Miss. They did score a hell of a lot of points, but that makes me uncomfortable that they gave up 35 to Ole Miss. Now, last year, I believe LSU gave up 37 to Ole Miss, and we all know what LSU did last season. But if I had to make a pick, I don't think South Carolina is as bad as we think. I don't think Florida is as good as we think. So I think this 17.5 point spread is not exactly accurate. I would lean South Carolina covering here. Last season was a decently close game between these two. That was at South Carolina, however. And in the year before, South Carolina actually won this game. I think, or Florida might have came back. I forget. I have to Google. Well, I don't. We'll forget about it for now. And as I stutter very badly. But anyway, I would lean South Carolina plus 17.5 in this game. But it's one game that you don't know either way. It's not going to be the most exciting game. It's possible there could be an upset. So we'll be on the TV for the first quarter, but after that, if it's not very close, I won't be watching it. And so moving on to another game in the 11 o'clock slot on Fox, we have TCU and Texas. Now, Texas just came out of that horrendous win. I don't know how they gave up, 59 points against Texas Tech, something in the 50s. They had the scratch and claw to come back and win that game. Thankfully for Texas, they did win the game. But it's going to be difficult if, Texas's defense is like that the entire season. Texas, that number 9 ranking by Texas, I don't like it a lot. I think that is a little too high. I think we should be dropping teams for bad wins, and that was a bad win against a Texas Tech team that beat Houston Baptist by 2 points. And on to their opponent this week, TCU, who Texas is playing. They just took a loss to Iowa State. I don't think this TCU team is any good. I haven't heard much about them. Texas is favored by 12 in this game. This is a game I really don't know. I could easily see this being a close game. That's just what Texas kind of does. But it's hard for me to see Texas winning this game by much more than 12 points, which is what they're favored by. But TCU's not really good, and I don't think Texas is that good. So if I had to lean, I would say TCU plus 12. But this one I would stay away from. So moving on, going back to the SEC, this is also at 11 a.m. We have Missouri and Tennessee. Tennessee is on a, I'll have to Google it, but I think Tennessee is on a 8-game win streak, which is impressive. They haven't lost, I believe, since they lost to Alabama. So it has been an impressive win streak for Tennessee. This is a game I fully expect Tennessee to win. Tennessee is ranked 21st. I don't know about that either. But Missouri just looked really bad against Alabama. And I know Alabama is almighty and really good. But, jeez, I don't know. I can't trust Missouri. So I'm going to think Tennessee's going to win this game. Now, typically when Tennessee plays these type games against East opponents like Missouri, Kentucky, South Carolina, Vanderbilt even, they typically kind of win by about a touchdown or 10 points. This is not a game I expect Tennessee to blow someone out. But Missouri did look pretty bad. I don't know what they're going to do from the quarterback position. Their defense is like butter. So I don't know. I don't know about this game. Obviously, I think Tennessee's going to win this game. I think they're going to extend that win streak. And talking about Tennessee's season, I think Tennessee's probably going to have a decent season for Tennessee standards. I don't know if we're talking 5-5, 6-4. I don't have their schedule in front of me, but I think it will be a good. And by the way, 5-5 this season. When you're playing only SEC games, that's going to be the equivalent of an 8-4 record. Normally, right? So 5-5. Some people might equate that to being a 6-6 season, but it's not. It's not like that. It'd be like going 8-4, 7-5. Especially if you go 6-4. That I would equate that to a 9-3 season. So it's going to be weird this season because you're only playing 10 SEC games. But I think Tennessee's going to have they're going to exceed expectations this season. And I think they're going to be pretty good. And we'll see how in the future Jeremy Pruitt gets this team. He's recruiting really well. So I'm excited about Tennessee's future. They will never beat Alabama. Let's just get that straight. They'll never beat Alabama. Knock on wood. But I'm excited to see how good this team's going to be. I want all SEC teams to be good. I'm tired of going into Alabama games knowing we're just playing a terrible team and we're going to blow them out. So I want all SEC teams to be good. Moving on, and I'm not going to talk much about this game because I don't think it's a ranked matchup, or I don't think that there's a ranked team involved, or should be a ranked team involved, but Pittsburgh somehow is ranked 24th. I don't believe in Pittsburgh. I know they're 3-0. I know, but I don't believe in them. It's Pitt. I don't believe in them. They're playing NC State at Heinz Field in Pittsburgh. They're favored by 14. I mean, NC State is pretty bad. They just lost to Virginia Tech by a good bit, but I'm not even going to talk about this game. Pitt wins. Pitt doesn't cover though. That's all I got to say about that. Now we have North Carolina and Boston College. North Carolina is favored by 14. Boston College beat Duke earlier this season, but and they beat Duke in week 1, and then they played Texas State and only won by 3. That's not very impressive now, and that leads me to believe that North Carolina is just going to stomp all over Boston College. It's Boston College. To me, Boston College feels like a Group of 5 team. They don't even feel like a Power 5 team. Yes, they are, but they really don't belong in a Power 5 conference. I think North Carolina will stomp all over them, just kind of like they did against Syracuse. Might be close at first, but they'll pull out. Next up, we have South Florida and the 15th ranked Cincinnati Bearcats. This is at 2:30 on ESPN+. All I got to say about this is Cincinnati shouldn't be ranked 15th. I don't believe in group of 5 teams until they are proven, and it's going to be hard this season because these group of 5 teams aren't playing anybody of any stature. South Florida sucks. South Florida sucks. Let me say that again. They were terrible last year. They're terrible this season. Cincinnati will roll all over them. Moving on, we have Alabama and Texas A&M. Now, I've already done a preview of this game. You can check that video out on my channel. So I'm not going to talk too much about it. My prediction for the game was 41-21 Alabama. I'm going to go on the trend of the way the games have been in the past, 40-something to 20-something. 41-21 Alabama wins. Moving on, 2:30 on ESPN, Oklahoma State, 17th ranked Oklahoma State plays at Kansas. Oklahoma State struggled against Tulsa. And then last weekend, they beat, if my memory serves me correct, they beat West Virginia by 14 points, 27-13. Kansas is not looking very good. Not looking very good at all. They lost to Coastal Carolina. Went down 28-3 to Coastal Carolina, and they got blown out by Baylor. I fully expect Oklahoma State to roll over them. They're not going to pull a Tulsa like they did in Week 1. They're going to be ready. It's the third game for Oklahoma State. They're going to roll all over Kansas. 25th, Memphis and SMU. This is a high-powered offensive game. It was last year, and I think it will be a high-powered offensive game again this year. Both teams have yet to lose. Memphis is finally getting back on the field. They played their first game on September 5th, so it's going to be a month in between games for Memphis. They've had a lot of COVID troubles. That's why they haven't played in a while. SMU's played 3 games. SMU's going to be much more in the... They're going to be rolling more, if you know what I'm saying. They've played 3 games. They're in the system. They've not had a month off like Memphis has. So I think I'm going to pick an upset here. I think SMU's going to win this game. I think Memphis is... It's going to be a really high-scoring game. It's at SMU. I think SMU is going to put up enough points on Memphis. I didn't like how Memphis played against Arkansas State, and even though I know Arkansas State did beat Kansas State, and Kansas State beat Oklahoma, but I think SMU is going to beat Memphis. Moving on to the night games, we have Tulsa and UCF at the Bounce House in Orlando. Tulsa played well against Oklahoma State, but I'm not going to read too much into that. I think Tulsa's probably not very good. I think UCF is pretty darn good for a group of 5 team. I think they do deserve respect. And I know I really don't like group of 5 teams. I said that about Cincinnati, but I do like UCF. I think they're a good team. They played well against Georgia Tech. I think UCF will beat Tulsa. They're favored by 21. I have no idea if they'll cover that or not, but they will comfortably win against Tulsa. We have Arkansas and Mississippi State. Mississippi State is coming off that big upset victory over LSU. I don't think that game where they beat LSU was as much Mississippi State being good. I think Mississippi State was good in that game, but I think it was more LSU being really bad compared to last year, at least. It's Arkansas. Mississippi State will beat Arkansas. I think that Arkansas team looked a little better, maybe, than they were last year. They have Felipe Franks, a better quarterback. And they were up 7-5 on Georgia, but they looked pretty dysfunctional in the second half and even the first half against Georgia. So I'm not going to put too much marbles into Arkansas. I think Mississippi State wins, and they win comfortably. Oklahoma going on the road and playing at Iowa State. And that's a game that would normally feel like a trap game, but Oklahoma just lost a quote-unquote trap game, I guess. They just got upset as 28-point favorites over Kansas State. So they're playing on the road at Iowa State. Iowa State lost to Louisiana Lafayette, but they beat TCU. Oklahoma's favored by 7. I think Oklahoma covers. I think Oklahoma's not that bad. They'll be 9-1. They'll win the Big 12. They'll beat Texas, like they do every year. But they're not top 5 caliber, but they're definitely not 18th in the country. That's ridiculous. UCF is ranked 11th. Oklahoma would beat UCF if 9 times out of 10. UCF might pull one out like Kansas State pulled out. But I might be wrong. Oklahoma might be bad, but I think Oklahoma will cover and win against Iowa State on the road. It's not going to be an intimidating environment. No road games are going to be that intimidating this season. So I think Oklahoma, they will beat Iowa State by more than 7 points Saturday night. 20th. That's right, 20th LSU. Doesn't seem right, or it seems right if you exclude last year. 20th LSU is favored by 21 points in Nashville against Vanderbilt. And I believe that LSU will not cover. That's right, they're not going to cover against Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt is a little better than most people would think. And I'm partly saying that because of Texas A&M, and I'm also partly saying that just by the sentiment of the bad teams are never as bad as you think, and the good teams are never as good as you think. So I'm going to say Vanderbilt at home. I know it's not home field advantage in terms of crowd noise. They're not going to have any fans, I don't believe. But they get to wake up in their own homes, own apartments, whatever. LSU has to wake up in a hotel room. I think Vanderbilt will cover the 21-point spread against LSU, but LSU will win comfortably. They're not going to have any problems with Vanderbilt. Coach O's going to have them ready, but they're not going to blow them out, by more than 21 points, but they'll win comfortably. At 7, we have Virginia and Clemson. This is a rematch of the ACC Championship where Clemson beat Virginia 62-17. Clemson is favored by 28.5 points. I'm going to lean Virginia here. Now, I might sound like an idiot, but I think it's very well that Clemson could come out and have a huge lead at the beginning of this game, and then Virginia scores a couple touchdowns and cuts it under the 28-point spread, and Virginia covers. I don't think Virginia is going to have any chance early in this game. I think the way I see it, Clemson's going to jump out to a big lead. They're going to put the second stringers in, and that's how Virginia covers. But I'm also feeling somewhat confident, and it's not what I think is going to happen, but I do feel somewhat confident that Virginia might, put 2 touchdowns on them in the first half or something, or put a touchdown and a field goal on them in the first half and make it enough to cover. But this game's not going to be close. Clemson is going to run through the ACC. They're going to run through them. Okay? Notre Dame might put up a fight, but I don't think Clemson is going to lose to Notre Dame. They're talking about Miami and how, Miami might put up a fight against Clemson. Ain't no way. Clemson is a different animal. Clemson's just going to plow through the ACC like they do every year. They might have, they might get upset. They might pull a Clemson, and they might get upset in one game. But that's not going to affect anything. They're going to plow through all the other games. So if they do get upset, they're going to win all the other games. They're going to blow out whoever they play in the ACC championship. And they're going to go right back to the college football playoff like they do every single year. And now, the big game. At 6:30 on ESPN, Auburn plays at Georgia. And this is a game that has had a lot of different opinions. Obviously, listening to it on the radio here in Alabama, this is the game everybody's been talking about on Feinbaum and whatnot. And a lot of different opinions. A lot of people think Auburn can win. A lot of people think Georgia can win. Vegas says Georgia's going to win by 6.5. And I just don't know. usually when Auburn plays at Georgia, they don't win. And when Auburn plays at Alabama, they don't win. So I just don't want to believe in Auburn winning this game. Georgia looked pretty bad against Arkansas. They have quarterback problems. We don't know if it's going to be. Oh, what's that guy's? Well, we know JT Daniels, the transfer from USC, is going to be cleared for the game for Georgia, and Stetson Bennett, it was the quarterback that came in and looked like he would be the second guy, or maybe even the first guy for Georgia in this game. We're not sure who's going to start. I think Georgia needs to go with JT Daniels. I don't trust this Stetson Bennett guy just because I don't know who he is. I would much rather put JT Daniels in this game. But I think it's hard because Georgia, I just don't trust Georgia and I don't trust Auburn. Apparently Auburn's offensive line is all new. 4 of the 5 starters on the offensive line, I believe, are gone from last year for Auburn. Auburn got outgained by Kentucky last week. That game was much closer than the score indicated, especially because of that 2-point conversion. The 2-point conversion didn't happen. It's a 14-point game, and I think Kentucky kind of got robbed of a touchdown. So it should have been a 7-point game. So that was a close football game. So I just don't know about either of these teams. I'm not going to read too much into Georgia being down 7-5 at halftime against Arkansas. Georgia's offense is going to be the same as it was last year, really bad, but their defense is going to be good. If I had to pick somebody, I'm going to go with Georgia, just because I can't see Auburn going to Athens and beating them. That's not something Auburn does. When Auburn wins these games, they win them at Auburn. And I know it's a different season. There's not going to be fans, where the fans aren't going to make as much of a difference. You only have 25% fans. But I just don't want to believe in Auburn going to Athens and beating them. It's going to be a fun